So here is one company based in Bangalore, it's called Diabeta Care, which said the device that you have or the entire service around diabetic management, because when the blood, the sugar levels go up or down, actually when they go down it's far more dangerous, is how do you give the care at the point of time that is delivered. For that, essentially you're powering the patient or the customer with a device packaged with the actually service, an annual service where actually they give you an expert doctor who is assigned to you, and people in the clinic are actually constantly monitoring the data. But the idea is that actually you need to look at the data constantly. So that's the key. And that's where you actually come up with a solution saying the glucometers that you buy from the shelf aren't connected. So you need to go and do the hassle of going to a clinic. So you kill the problem by saying, let me make the device intelligent and connected. So that's where the glucometer that you see actually has a SIM card, and it's connected to the Diabeta Care's cloud and actually shares the patient's reading as and when he or she is conducting a blood glucose test. One of the favorite examples that I have is Mahindra Reva. It's a E2O car and the first electric car. So for them it was essential that the electric car or actually renewable source of energy driven vehicles succeed, and that's because there's a strong impetus from the government, and also the need may not be too latent, but essentially somewhere the market needs to move in those directions of renewable sources. So Reva's essential promise to the customer is that you buy a car, but actually the infrastructure that is needed to run the car, which is recharge points, need to be found. They're not everywhere, they're not found everywhere. They're not like your petrol stations where you can find easily. So that's the infrastructure they had to create. But essentially, the owner of the car needs to be equipped with all this intelligence, because otherwise it's very tough to kind of understand when the battery is going out, where is the nearest charging point, how many kilometers does he or she still has. Essentially, each recharge roughly sustains about 80 to 120 kilometers. So for that, it is very essential for them that actually they read the engine diagnostics, because their R&D needs to constantly know how the owner of the car is engaging with the car, and how the owner needs to be equipped with the information. It could be a dangerous point where actually the charge is left for next 5-10 kilometers, but essentially you intimate the owner that actually here is your nearest charging point. So you basically have the whole proliferation of smartphone and a car which is electric, but it needs to talk to the owner, and you make them connected. So and that's the way you find solutions to the problem, saying, for me it's about mobility for the owner of the car, but he needs to be empowered with the kind of data or service that he or she needs to be a continued customer. So a favorite one, but whereas all these kind of conversations start, it could start in forums like this, it could start in forums like incubation centers, or it could start back in some of the places where we have customer experience centers. Essentially, we aren't talking about a hard sell of a product, but actually essentially saying, let's sit across and understand the problem and solve it. The technology is out there. Don't worry about the technology. So, and I think as we think about what's happening, and it comes back to my earlier statement about why I think today is more fascinating than actually the times that I tried trying to take an idea, is basically the stimulus in the market, external stimulus, be it the government or be it the kind of acceptance that the society has, is far more conducive to actually taking your startups to growth stories. So one of the favorites is, again, can you solve a basic problem around the farming, productivity of the farmer? As the country wants to go cashless, are there better ways to support them? Because the idea why a rural person has to go cashless is just because he's not like excited to go cashless, but he needs to earn cash. He needs to earn his income. And that's where you think about jobs for the youth, and it could be the smartphone, which is the first way where they actually experience the internet, or the women actually who are running the self-help groups. So you identify that basic need and solve that using technology, and rest of it will happen automatically. So that's our strong viewpoint, that solve the basic needs in the market, be it enterprises or be it consumers, and leverage technology, and you get the scaling that you need. With that, I think for me it's exciting to be in the room full of entrepreneurs and VCs and Ps. It's always exciting to this world. To me, I think it's about growing with the right partnerships and innovating and finding problems or solutions to the problems. So with that, I think I conclude. I'm on the clock. So I can take one or two questions if you have, or we could always have an offline conversation.
Hi, I'm Harish. This is a more specific problem through which you've been talking about Vodafone empowering entrepreneurs. This is very specific to a problem that I encountered a couple of weeks back. I was going to a remote location and I suddenly got off network while other of my colleagues were on the same, most of us use a Vodafone network. I had extreme difficulty. For 2 weeks, I'm off network. In India, very much a place. I try to reach customer service, I try to reach a store, and for 2 weeks we don't get to see what happens where I see in this day and age where we still talk about technology, empowering, connecting people. But I think somewhere at a brass tack or a grassroots level, I think the basic things are being left out. And I still haven't heard why I was off network for 2 weeks.
Okay, I think I don't disagree with you that the network, which is, we claim that is pervasive, isn't pervasive, right? Multiple challenges. One challenge obviously is, do I have the right, what we call as a spectrum, where I actually need to have enough of them to actually deploy the networks. And second is some of the pockets, I don't know which pocket you are in, I'm happy to understand from you where the issue was. Some of those are actually not sounding to these telcos, which is actually very, very capital intensive game with all the uncertainties that I see in the market. And sometimes I wake up to the press and see what's happening. So I think sometimes it's about economic viability of taking connectivity, right? But having said that, if the claim is tall, where we say the connectivity is pervasive, it's a journey that we ourselves need to live up to saying, I need to take the connectivity to places where it's needed. So I don't think the problem has been solved fully. But today the attempt, at least the claim we think is any village with about 5,000 population is where the connectivity has technically reached. And cellular has reached much faster than broadband could ever. But yes, there are pockets where it still hasn't. So we need to find solutions to that. So it's a feedback taken, but
yeah, because we see the larger challenges like the farmer out there.
Yeah.
And potentially the guy you're trying to talk to, the person over there,
yeah,
is probably the guy who's probably needing a better connectivity to his issues than probably me. You know, I can still manage with
I agree.
other methodologies, whereas he cannot.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Check.